Hello everybody, this lesson is for Unit 8, Irrationals and Radicals, and it's the Foundations lesson. So getting ready for everything that we're going to learn in this unit, just sort of some prerequisite skills that they have and they want you to be really good at. So the first part of the lesson is going to be working with repeating decimals. And repeating decimals, there's really two different ways to write them. You can write them with an over bar, where the bar goes over the part that repeats. And you can also label it with what's called an ellipses at the end of the number. So this over bar means that this 353535 is repeating, and you can see that written as a decimal over here, 3.51, 35353535. That 35 is repeating. The second one, 0.7123, repeating. If you repeat that extender part, we're repeating the chunk that's underneath that bar. So 0.7123, and then it repeats 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. This last one, 6.118888, you want an over bar over the part that's repeating. So even though these ones are come up more than one time, the part that goes on and on forever is the eighths. So you'd write it as 6.11 and then 8 with an over bar over it, because only the 8 is repeating the entire way. So matching the equivalent decimals. So this first one, we have 9.6225 is a repeating chunk. So over here, this one is repeating 625, 625. This one is 62 and then 2525. So we'd match it that way. This one repeats 9.625 repeating. So it repeats after the 6. So 9.6252525. We'd match with this one. This one repeats the entire chunk, 9.625, and then it would have to go 625, 625. We already looked at that one, this one up here, so these two match. And just double check, this one repeats 0.6225. So it would go 6225, 6225, 6225, 6225. They match here. So pay attention to the chunk that repeats. Moving on to the next topic in this lesson is with writing factors of integers and writing integers as products. And products just means you're multiplying. Factors means those are the numbers that you multiply. So think of the different factors of 16. I know we have a 1 goes into 16. 1 and 16 itself are always going to be part of it, so we have 16 at the end. 2 goes into 16. And that's 2 times 8, so we would have 8 at the end. And then 4 goes into 16, and 4 times 4 is how we get to 16. So here are the factors of 16 that we can list. If we want to list them specifically as factor pairs, then you'd pair up the two factors that go with it. So the first one we kind of did, 1 and 16. A factor pair of 16 would be 1 and 16. Another factor pair would be 2 and 8, so 2 times 8. And then the last one, 4 and 4, so 4 and 4. You could also write this as 1 times 16, write it as 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. So listing the factors pairs, specifically you want the pairs of numbers that you multiply to get to that number. Just another example, factors for 128. So we know that 1 goes into 128. And then also with 1, we know we've got 128 at the end. 2 goes into 128, and 2, if we divide 128 by 2, we get to 64. And we can kind of list these down here. So 1 times 128. 2 times 64. 4 goes into 128. So if we divide by 4, we'd have 4 and 32. And I know if we do 128 divided by 8, it's 16. So 8 and 16. And I think that's all of them, because the other ones would have different factors with it. And I think this is all of our factors. So as our factor pairs, we have 1 times 128, 2 times 64, 4 times 32, and then 8 times 16 for the factor pairs for this one. The last topic in this foundations lesson is with rounding decimals, and specifically rounding to different place value. So when you're looking at a decimal, the part in front of the number, remember, is representing your ones and your tens. So here's our ones place, and here's our tens place. For thinking about the rest of the part of the number that represents the decimal, if you think of this decimal point as being where the number 1 would be, the 2 would be in the tenths place, the 5 is in the hundredths place, the 0 is in the thousands place, so you can kind of see what number that would be if you use that decimal point as a 0. And then the 8 is in the 10,000ths place. So when you're looking at, for answering these questions, what digit is in the ones place? The ones place represents the numbers before the decimal. So our ones place, we would have 3. The digit in the hundredths place, notice it's got this th, it's after the decimal, hundredths place, is our 5. It rounded to the nearest tenth. So the number in our tenths place is a 2. You always look after it for rounding. So the number after it is a 5. So that means we have to round this 2 up to a 3. So we would have our number rounded as 13.3. So again, looking at the 2 in the tenths place, look after it for rounding. We round up because it's a 5, so 13.3. And then what would this number be rounded to the nearest thousandth place? So thousandths place is here. Where the 0 is, look after it. It's greater than 5, so we'd round around up that 0 to a 1. So we would have 13.251 to round up. Trying this again with a few more examples. Round to the nearest hundredth. For this first one, hundredth place, if you think of this as a 1, 10 hundredths, we're rounding to the 6. So we'd round it as 5.06. Next one to the nearest tenth place. Here's our tenths. You round up because the 8 is larger, so 0.2. And next one, rounding to the nearest thousandths. Thousandths is the 8 at the end. And remember, this over bar means it's repeating 0.68. So after it, we would round up, or we'd keep that 8 the same because it's a 0. So we would round this to 2.068. And this last one, round to the nearest hundredth. So here's our hundredth spot. And rounding, for looking after that number, it's a 4. Keep it the same, so we'd round it to 0.92. So your assignment for this lesson is from an online worksheet, problem sets A, B, and C odds. Make sure you're checking your answers, and then you'll want to complete that online quiz. I do have live help Monday through Friday from 10 to 11, or Fridays from 9 to 10. You can always reach me on Skype at alicia.katka or connect with me through phone. And for your assignment, you can pause it on this screen so that you've got all of the practice questions and complete each of those, and make sure you turn that in at the end of the unit to your Unit 8 Dropbox.